Gary Harvey's investment in New Zealand breeding and racing is an important cog in the wheel of the Kiwi industry, and his Westbury stud, under the management of Russell Warwick, is revelling in the spring success of their stallion Reliable Man. Added to that, they introduced the first yearlings this year by Darley's son of Street Cry Telperion and Tavistock's Victoria Derby winner Tarzino. Russell, it's been another fabulous year here for Westbury stud. Of course, Miami bound, winning the Wakeful and the Oaks by your own Reliable Man, and she was bred here at Westbury, and of course Night's Watch Battenberg group placed as well. So a really, really good year in Australia as well as here in New Zealand.
It has been, Caroline, you know, to kick off like we did in the spring in Melbourne and then in Sydney as well was really, really pleasing indeed, because competition in the spring in Australia is as strong as it is anywhere in the world. So to have the horses come off the farm here and go and perform up to their best and competitive with those sort of horses, let alone to win an Oaks over the Flemington Carnival, was very gratifying, and we're very proud of the horses indeed.
And exciting times too with your young stallions. Of course, Telperion by the great Street Cry, the sire of Winx, and Tarzino by Tavistock, who's been such a fabulous international sire for New Zealand. And it's really great to see their previous connections here at Westbury just recently too.
That's right, you know, they're both horses that obviously carried a very big profile in the Australian racing scene, and to have John O'Shea here, who trained Telperion throughout his career, and Chris Lawler as well, who purchased Tarzino as a yearling and then shared in his ownership through his racing and his stud career. They were really excited to see their first progeny here in the last week or so.
We start for NZB 2020, lot 383, Tarzino from Vanilla Ice Cream. Now this colt's from a more than ready mare out of a Danehill mare, so that's a fabulous cross in itself. She was group placed in Sydney, Villa Bled, and assisted a Danelar. So this is this awesome Dazelle, Vengeance of Rain, and of course now Pinot family.
It is, and you know, Tarzino, we hope to select the mares that would suit him really well, and we looked at what worked with Tavistock and Zabeel, because they were very prominent in the pedigree of Tarzino, and must say that the results that we've got are very pleasing indeed. Some lovely horses, scopy horses, and this colt's no exception. Even though he's out of a more than ready mare, he's got that scope and stretch about him. He comes from a staying pedigree, which has had, I think, 2 or 3 Oaks winners in it, as well as Vengeance of Rain, champion Hong Kong performer. So I think buyers will find favour in them. They come to New Zealand to really find those 3-year-olds that are going to develop into hopefully 2,000, 2,400 metre horses, and he really fits that sort of bracket.
Strong colt, isn't he? I mean, the half brother by Zoo Star made $280,000 at the Magic Millions, but this fellow, when he drops his head, he's got that lovely, you know, really great action, doesn't he?
Yeah, look, he really has got a great stride on him. I think a lot of that you're starting to see the Zabeel influence that's in Tarzino's pedigree starting to come through, and I think when you reminisce back to the days when Zabeel had his yearlings going through the ring, you could notice that a lot with his horses. They had great overreach on them, lovely action, got their heads down nice and low, and walk with such a casual step to them. So no, I'm sure that buyers will find favour with them, and they really are exactly what we expected them to be.
Well, Telperion, he was obviously a real favourite for the Godolphin, the Darley team in Australia. And this colt from Tempo Manor, lot 341, she's a General Nadir mare, again from a Danehill mare. The Dam 1-4, and is a half-sister of the Bletchingley Stakes winner, Ready to Rip, and group place Sir Largo. He's really strong, he's got good bone, he's powerful behind it. He can really stretch out too when he chooses to. Yeah,
look, he's a really strong colt, and Telperion himself is a very strong horse, and then to add the General Nadim into the mix, I think it's really given the horse the substance that he's got. And his mother was a city performer when she was trained by Guy Walter in Sydney. She was a very good performer, a city winner. And of course, as you said, Ready to Rip's a half sister to the Dam, and he was a very capable sprinter, both I think in Brisbane and in Melbourne later on when Peter Moody had him. So it's a family that can get a runner. And looking at the horse, he's got a great hind quarter on him, wonderful forearms on him, and he's just sort of a horse for a November foal who's very, very mature for this time of the year.
Next one, also a Telperion. This is in Book 2, lot 1033 or 1033, from the well-named Cattle Dog. Now this colt's from an Encosta de Largo mare, daughter of Chavoff. She was $1 million yearling herself. And the half-sister to this fellow, Red Healer, has won 2 out of 3 for Mick Kent. And a client's mare, but, you know, great pedigree behind this colt too, that startling Lash Chavog family.
It is a very, very good family, and the mare's had 2 or 3 runners out there now. I think she's only had the first foal didn't race, the second foal hasn't won, but then Red Heeler's come on the scene and it's only had the 3 starts for Mick Kent, and I think it's run 4th and 2 wins, and the last win at Sandown was most impressive. So definitely looks a horse that's going to develop into a nice middle distance mare in Melbourne, and we know the family can get a great racehorse in the likes of Startling Lass and Leveller and Carnegie House from a few years back, so not just sprinters but horses that can get a middle distance as well.
And then we get to lot 1053. This is a Tarzino colt from Confer, out of Confer, who was placed in the Oaks, and then Costa del Lago mare, the second dam by Danehill. Beautiful mover, and you've obviously, you know, you were saying you had to sort of pare back the weight on this fella, but you know, he's now very athletic, and then now you can start to sort of build him up for the sales.
Yeah, look, you know, I think it's, you know, he's one of those horses that you just had to play with a little bit in the preparation, and if you just kept feeding and feeding, you would have eaten and eaten, and you would have had a very heavy and non-athletic horse. So we've managed him, I think, very well in the early part of his preparation. He's now developed really well coming into it, and with sort of month, 6 weeks to go, I think he'll furnish really well in that time and present very well, because he, as you say, he's got a lovely walk on him, great hind quarter on him, and I can see a fair bit of Danehill in him. So I think when we know that Tarzino's out of a Zabeel mare, and this guy's grandmother's by Danehill, the Zabeel Danehill cross was one that worked extremely well back in the 80s and early 90s. So this colt here, he's got all the bloodlines to say that he'll be able to be a top line racehorse.
And then finally, lot 102, Tarzino Miss Juventus colt, close relative to the Galaxy winner Atomic Force, who won 2 Group 1s, from an Anabar mare. A real Zabeel, isn't he, this fellow? He's got those typical, you know, long legs with the black points, and a magnificent walk, doesn't he?
He does, and you know, he's a half-brother of a very capable galloper in Brisbane called Trusty Lad, who ran 4th in the Grand Prix, and early on was one of the favourites for the Queensland Derby. And he was by Reliable Man, and this colt here by Tarzino, as you say, he's very, very reminiscent of the Zabeel part of the pedigree, and so many people liken Tarzino to Zabeel through his maternal grandsire, and I think of all the Tarzinos that we've got, probably this horse is the one you put your big ring around Zabeel in the book and say, well, that's what he's throwing to. So you know, very, very proud of him. He's a lovely correct horse, as you say, got a lovely action on him. And I think a few of those that can remember what the Zabeels look like will be impressed with what they see.
And a lovely temperament too. He's got a lovely way about him.
It's been probably the trend with all the Tarzinos. We found them very good to work with, good doing horses, really, really good in the feed bin, and really good attitudes to work with. So hopefully that'll stand to them when it comes to running over a middle distance in their 3-year-old year.
Well, Jerry Harvey is a huge investment, isn't it, here from Jerry within New Zealand? Of course, Westbury Stud being the major part of that. How do you see the sales going? Because you really do have big numbers that you're breeding here at Westbury.
We do. You know, we're doing a total of 109 yearlings for the sales this year, which is no mean feat in itself. And we're just fortunate we've got a very good staff, and hopefully it all comes together in that last fortnight before the sales. But no, Jerry's investment here in New Zealand's significant by the least. Just purchased a new farm in Matamata, which we're developing at the moment, which gives him 3 farms in New Zealand, and he breeds on an average around 240, 250 foals in New Zealand. So very passionate about thoroughbred breeding and racing, and we're all better off for that, not only in New Zealand but right across Australia as well.
That is part 1 of our 2020 NZB Karaka Yearling Sales Preview. Make sure you join me next Tuesday night for part 2 as we look at yearlings from the drafts of Pencarrow, Windsor Park, Curramore, Hyden Park and Bright Hill Farm. The 2020 NZB Karaka Yearling Sales Series kicks off on Sunday, January 26, with Book 1 running until Tuesday, January 28, and followed by Books 2 and 3. Thanks for joining me. I'm Caroline CSE. I'll see you again next week.